Hey guys, so I've got an update for you guys about the Oliver Tree situation. This story's just kind of thrown me through a loop, and I've just been looking into this and just digging and catching up with the news and just trying to find out the history all day. And I found some kind of disturbing stuff. There's kind of some weird conspiracies now going around. There's now footage of the actual, what seems to be the helicopter collision as it happened, and some really interesting backstory about what Oliver Tree was actually doing in Brazil, how he ended up in this situation with these helicopters, and really just a really, really sad end to an amazing career. Like I said, I've been digging into this all day, and I've found some stuff that just really surprised me. I'd followed his career, not as closely as some of my favorite rappers, but I'd followed his career and I'd seen a lot of his appearances, his songs. But learning about exactly where he was at in his career when this happened, I think has really opened my eyes to maybe some of what was really going on. I don't believe the conspiracies that are going around about this, but I will tell you about those in this video, and you can make your mind up for yourselves. But if you saw my last video, you'll already know the news. But if you didn't, the news broke earlier today that Oliver Tree was killed in a crash. It was a helicopter crash. Two helicopters collided with each other in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and everybody's just trying to make sense of this. He was really beloved. Everybody that ever worked with him and met him said he was a nice guy. I don't find anyone's got anything bad to say about Oliver Tree. I've been doing my digging into him today. I've been learning kind of more details about his career, and I can't see a bad thing about the guy, honestly. So obviously, as it was reported in CNN Brazil, it was a mid-air collision that ended up seeing a helicopter crash into a parking lot for electric vehicles, and there were quite a few videos and pictures that had circulated when this was reported. Now, obviously, if you saw the last update, you'll know the details, but I'll just give you a brief update and then I'll tell you some of the new things. Two helicopters collided. It left 6 people dead in Recreio dos Bandeirantes in southwest zone of Rio de Janeiro. It happened on Sunday morning, and 6 people passed away. That included Oliver Tree, as well as kind of a well-known YouTuber from Argentina, Gaspar Prim, as well as Lucas Vignale, who's actually a film director. This passenger, Lucas Brito Chavez, I've not found anything out about him yet, but obviously 2 of the helicopter pilots also passed away in the incident. Now, it was a helicopter collision, reportedly, and now there's actually footage that's kind of circulating that appears to actually show the helicopter crash. So I'm going to play you this. I'm just going to give you a warning. You will see these helicopters go down. There's no gore. You don't see anybody getting hurt. But what you can see is these helicopters, this seems like it's a split second after the helicopters collided. They're together. You can see them here on screen, and then they kind of crash down. So I'm just going to give you a fair warning. And I'm just, showing you this to kind of, so you can understand what actually happened in this incident. I think a lot of people have been asking and saying, how on earth are 2 helicopters crashing into each other? How does that happen? What's going on? Was it an accident? My opinion, this is just a guess. I think he was possibly filming something in these helicopters. And I'm going to tell you why I believe that in a minute with some actual evidence, but I'm going to show you this footage now just of these helicopters crashing. So as you see, it seems like the moment of impact actually has already happened before the person starts recording. I don't know how on earth they decided and realized that they would need to record, but it seems like these helicopters kind of have an impact. It's not completely destruction and they hit each other, but it's like something happens. Maybe they clipped, maybe a blade got clipped and it just sent everything off course. But I'm just going to refresh this and just show it to you there. So as you can see, they both kind of get downed and just fly off into different directions. And so it just is kind of quite crazy to actually see that and to witness that and to see these helicopters going down. I mean, I'm honestly I've never seen anything like it. I'm really taken aback. It's so sad to see. Must have really been terrifying. I did see comments of people saying that they hoped, the collision impact hopefully kind of knocked the people in the planes, the helicopters unconscious, and that they didn't suffer after that crash. And obviously, there was a crash, big impact. These are quite high in the sky. And then there were a lot of fires as well that followed. So it's just so sad to see. But what happens next in this video is it actually shows you some of the aftermath as they were trying to kind of get control of the scene. I did show you some still images from this earlier on, but now the full video has actually come out, and again, it just shows horrible wreckage. people trying to put out the flames. I believe the other wreckage was in another parking lot. So I don't know if this is actually two electric vehicle parking lots where each of the helicopters crashed. These look like electric vehicles. I don't know for sure, but these look like they could be BYD vehicles. And it's highly possible. I mean, they're all the same color, seemingly exactly the same make and model. And we know that the other parking lot where the helicopter crashed and caught fire was a BYD parking lot that had been leased from a church, and the Chinese electric car company was storing vehicles there. I would think that was a concrete parking lot. This is a grass parking lot, but I wonder if they had a bunch of lots in the area, and it just so happens it crashed in both, because it's sort of unlikely that you would crash into a random parking lot and all the cars would be the same color, same make, same model. But this wreckage doesn't look as bad or as fiery as the other one, and perhaps it didn't impact any of the car batteries in this instance. But what you're going to see here is just some of the aftermath of the incident and people trying to help. So it's just a horrible scene, it's just a horrible thing to have happened, and I'm just so sad to see it. Now, I want to give you some backstory about why Oliver Tree was actually in Brazil, and how kind of this all, came to be. Now, I've been kind of doing my research. Obviously, we've been hearing that he was on a world tour, but more specifically, this is the world tour that he was on, which he announced on his own Instagram. And it's just so heartbreaking to see this, because not only is it kind of, just showing what a great level he was at in his career, where he said, I'm going on the world's first tour, playing shows in all 7 continents this year, 30 plus countries, 70 plus shows. Biggest tour of my life. Pre-sale goes live Wednesday. And this show in Sao Paulo, Brazil, was actually the 4th show. I'm going to zoom in just so you guys can see that. But as you can see here, that was actually the 4th show. So he'd played a show in Mexico City, a show in Santiago, Chile, and a show in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And then he played his Sao Paulo show in Brazil. Now, what I found really interesting, just from having looked into this today, was the fact that the Sao Paulo show was actually on June the 6th, and he did play that show. That would have been about 8 days ago from this helicopter crash. What is interesting is he hadn't had another scheduled show until going to Lisbon, Portugal on July the 1st. Now, they speak Portuguese in Brazil. He'd just been to Buenos Aires in Argentina, and he's obviously linked up with a very famous Argentinian YouTuber who passed away in this incident. But I found it quite fascinating that he was scheduled to be in Sao Paulo, Brazil, 6th of June, and then nearly, 3+ weeks he was set to be in Brazil. Now, he was on this helicopter collision today, which is the 14th of June. So, he'd been there 8 days, probably working, making content, collaborating, maybe recording. He didn't have any other shows in Brazil for the rest of the month. I personally believe he was probably maybe filming a music video, or, creating some content. Maybe he's filming a short film, who knows? But what strikes me is that there was a very notable and big gap in his schedule right after this Brazil show. And I'm not seeing many other big gaps. He was booked to play shows all the way through July, pretty much back to back throughout Portugal, Spain, Europe, all through Europe, Italy, and then coming back to the United States, Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Charlotte, North Carolina. So he had all these American shows that were just really back-to-back. July and August, completely packed schedule, non-stop. And then back to Europe, playing Amsterdam, Brussels, Cologne. So again, September, kind of big European presence, London, Australia. It was a huge tour. And then he had planned to go to China. And that's really sad to see, because obviously he'd been to the Great Wall of China and he'd really toured. I'm going to tell you in a minute, but he'd actually been kind of on a personal tour around the world before this actually happened. So all of these dates, unfortunately, obviously he's no longer here to perform those dates, but there's no other huge gaps, right? He plays all the way through September, plays all the way through October, but for some reason he kicked off the tour at the end of May, did a few shows on sort of, this Latin America, South America, Portugal, even Spanish. It was kind of the sort of Hispanic, Latin America, South America section, but he had clearly had big plans in Brazil. The biggest gap of time, the biggest lump of time was in Brazil, and that was planned out. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't, we're rescheduling, I want to kick it in Brazil. He obviously had big plans. I think he was probably filming big music videos and things, but unfortunately, some of the backstory about not just the tour, but the album that he released before the tour has unfortunately led to some kind of quite strange conspiracy theories circulating now. And I don't want to condone, or I'm not saying I believe these conspiracy theories by any means, but I just think that the information that's being broadcast in these conspiracy theories is interesting on its own. But the actual conspiracy that someone might have wanted him to be dead as a result of this is not something I agree with. But this is what's going around. So there was a pretty big tweet by Oliver Tree back in April 2026. This was on the 9th of April 2026. And he tweeted his new album, Love You Madly, Hate You Badly, drops April 24th. And it did. But the backstory about the album is really interesting. He said the album was recorded in 82 countries across all 7 continents. Now, let's not forget that this tour, he was playing in all 7 continents in 30 plus countries. So he was really on this kind of worldwide, he wanted to see all these things. And it breaks my heart to know that he passed away so young. But there is a little bit of me that was almost like, wow, he died so young. But thank God that, you know, in the 2 years leading up to his death, he got to travel to 82 countries. He saw all 7 continents. He really lived life. So we got to celebrate. This man lived an amazing life. He achieved so much in such a short period of time, and he got to experience things and do things, you know, most people that live their whole lives and die don't get to do. And this, you know, it makes me kind of emotional to think about it. Yeah. But like, this guy really got to live life. So it's so sad that he died at 32, but he lived an amazing life and he didn't leave nothing on the table. And he really is an inspiration. It makes me want to get out and live more life and travel more. I don't travel that much. I sit here and make videos for you guys, but this really inspired me and it really kind of moved me. So in the 2 years leading up to this album, he recorded the whole album on a trip to 82 countries across 7 continents. He took the album cover photo in Afghanistan. And throughout this trip, that was a 2-year journey, he recorded 17 songs for the album. And he was dropping an Antarctica feature-length documentary, is what he announced. But this was what's interesting, and this is really what's led to the conspiracy theories. It says, after everything behind the scenes, I left my label Atlantic so I can release this independently on my own label, Alien Boy Records. This is the album I fought the hardest for. It was written and produced entirely by me. So he was set to keep every penny from the album, and he did release it along with the All You Ever Wanted music video. So I thought this was really inspiring, but also kind of sad that it's been co-opted by conspiracy theorists, because this is r/conspiracy theory, r/conspiracy. And it says 2 months after he released his album independently, he's no longer with us. Was he killed? Now, look, I don't condone this. I'm going to explore these conspiracies just so you understand what's going on. But I don't agree with them. And I don't think this is ridiculous that that's what happened. But it says, I'm posting the conspiracy. I've read many other posts, but here is my take on the tragic death of Oliver Tree. So they say Oliver Tree left Atlantic Records in April to release his new album. I also noticed he deleted the video on his Instagram of him explaining the album, All You Ever Wanted, coming out after he wasn't allowed to release through Atlantic. Yikes. A scary message to many artists out there like, see, this is what happens when you go independent and think you don't need us anymore. Now, I think it is a coincidence. A lot of people have bad things to say about the label. And the thing is, I was looking at his Billboard history earlier, and he was so famous. He's got songs with, 700 million plays, 400 million views. He was a massive artist, and I wouldn't be surprised if Life Goes On goes #1 after this tragic news. But, the label often do make a lot of money off of artists that are deceased. Now, I don't think Atlantic Records is having him killed, all right? I don't think that's what's happening. But I do think that it's very interesting to find out that he had gone completely independent before this, and he was set to earn all of the money from this album. Now, I would like to know more about his dispute with Atlantic. I'm going to dig into that and learn more about that as the days go by. But basically, people are saying he knew too much about Antarctica. Maybe he saw the ice wall. All right, so they're kind of joking. It says, yeah, they paid the other helicopter pilot a shitload of money. He decided it was worth slamming into another helicopter midair. So people are saying it's nonsense, right? I agree. It is nonsense, okay? It says, I can come up with a lot of ways something like this could be orchestrated. Are any of them remotely plausible? Not really. Do you think they blackmailed the pilots and made them off themselves? Or do you think there weren't really 2 helicopters? You didn't really provide theories. You just floated the idea of him being murdered, all right? You know what I mean? It's silly. But what the conspiracy has uncovered, ironically, is basically what an amazing life that he lived in the lead up to this, and this really, really moved me. So I don't put any thought to the conspiracy theory at all, but I do think that the fact that that is what led me to find this post and to learn more about his situation was really inspiring. So look, I just wanted to give you guys that little update. I'm trying to find out kind of just more about the situation, and I'm just kind of monitoring everything that's going on, and I'm digging, you know, into some of his history just to learn a little bit about what got us here. But I just want to say once again, man, rest in peace to Oliver Tree. Such sad news. This has really just affected me on an emotional level today. And, you know, I hope everybody out there is doing okay, staying safe. And it just goes to show you, man, life is so precious. It can be so short. It can be over in the blink of an eye. You know, you saw the footage of those helicopters colliding and how quickly they hit the ground. And, you know, the good thing is he probably didn't suffer. It probably, you know, hopefully they weren't even conscious before the helicopter hit the ground. If they were, they probably were, you know, instantly just not aware of what was going on. And you know, I'm just so sad to hear this news. It's really sad. So yeah, I'll keep you guys updated if I find out anything more. I'm kind of just quite like emotionally wrapped up in this situation right now. It's affecting me a lot. So I hope everyone out there's doing good. I hope everyone's staying safe. God bless, and rest in peace to Oliver Tree. So yeah, that's me.